in the interreligious chaplaincy program, one of the smaller concentrations here at United. She's roughly in her third year of coursework here. What is the third year? We don't know what that means. She was raised Unitarian, but has been a part of the Episcopal Church for quite a while and considers herself a multi-faith seeker. Nina's goal in chaplaincy is to provide spiritual care and activism settings for movement leaders and participants, something that is particularly relevant and germane to this present moment we find ourselves in. Now, although she's in her thirdish year, I'm only just now having the privilege of working with Nina in my constructive theology class. I could already tell she's an extraordinary student and theological thinker. So now you gotta, show me that that's a true claim here. All right, friends, please join me in welcoming Nina Johnson.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wheeler. I am going to start by taking us through a little movement. If you are interested or willing or able to stand, you can do whatever you want. You can sit, you can stand. I just want to do what I call somatic discharge, which is something that I do to settle my own nervous system, which is to shake, rub your arms. I get this jittery feeling across my skin when I'm anxious, and so this helps me to just get kind of grounded. And so we can all be present here today together. And welcome to everybody, those online. I'm very happy that you're here. You can also shake and shimmy and sigh. So, thank you. And we will proceed with a poem read for us by Eliza Deary.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eliza, and I'm going to be reading this beautiful poem that Nina asked me to read that I just want to say has been one of my, it's been part of my call, and so being asked to read it this morning spontaneously just felt so special. But it's called For a New Beginning by John O'Donohue. In out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you are ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness grow inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream. A path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure, holding nothing back. Learn to find ease and risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you.
some way home. Taking our time, but we're not going slow. Maybe we'll find there's nowhere to go. Where is the mind? How does it flow? Maybe a sign the mind itself knows. All will expand, and all will reveal what's hidden within. So how do you feel? The nature we're in is also in you. That's how we hear her listening to. After sunset, we realize she spoke the truth, and the moon never lies. What do you hear? Dear moon, what do you hear?
Thank you, Mike. That was a beautiful song. about wisdom from the moon. So, this sermon that I have today is entitled, Who Shall We Listen To? And perhaps it goes without saying, but lately I've been thinking about the concept of authority. Who gets to be in charge? Who gets to be heard and listened to? Where does authority come from? Is it given? Is it earned? Is it taken? Perhaps by force? Individuals and institutions are said to have authority, the power to make decisions, to give orders, and enforce obedience. They are in charge, they are in control. We sometimes use the idea of authority in an abstract, kind of disembodied way. We might say, local authorities are investigating the accident, or they are trying to evade the authorities. Authorities is often seen as something outside of ourselves. In my preaching class last summer, for which I wrote a version of this sermon, we talked about authority a little differently. We were taught that authority is an important element of being a preacher. We were encouraged to step into our authority, to claim it on behalf of our congregations. People who come to hear a preacher want to feel that the preacher and what they say are authentic, meaningful, and somehow God-connected. The term authority can have both positive and negative connotations, depending on the context. At times, I have had authority, for example, as a parent, or have been an authority on some subject or another, for example, in my work as an organizational consultant in a life gone by. Other times, I have felt powerless and at the mercy of authority figures. But notice that these two scenarios are both characterized by hierarchy, one party having some power or knowledge that the other does not. The authority that we are asked to embody as faith leaders is a different thing altogether. This is not a hierarchical power over kind of control, but a power with, a co-creative authority. This is the kind of authority that I want to step into. Now, there are stories throughout the Bible, which is from my tradition, warning us about people claiming authority where they should not. One example is the second letter of Peter, who is writing to a fledgling Christian community in the diaspora that is under pressure of persecution. Peter, who is himself facing execution, is telling his congregation, I am soon to be gone from this life. And before I go, I want you to hear and to hold on to what I have been teaching you. He is concerned with the rise of those in the community who call themselves prophets and warns them about the dangers of false teachers. He says that they will, quote, secretly introduce destructive heresies. Many will follow their depraved conduct and will bring the way of truth into disrepute. In their greed, these teachers will exploit you with fabricated stories, unquote. Peter warns them to not be tempted to stray from the teachings of Jesus and onto a different, perhaps easier or safer path. Peter tries to reassure this congregation, reminding that he himself witnessed the transfiguration of Jesus. He saw divine glory radiate from Jesus' face and dazzling white clothing. He beheld the wondrous appearance of Moses and Elijah and heard the voice of God. He saw for himself the proof, the confirmation that Jesus is God's divine chosen. He heard with his own ears the instruction to listen to no other prophet but Jesus. Peter is saying, as an eyewitness, I have seen the truth, and you should trust and follow what I tell you. Peter is the authority that the community should believe, not any of those other false teachers. Now, I have to admit, this story has been a bit troublesome for me. I've gone back and forth about how to interpret this. On one hand, I see a community leader at the end of his life, desperate to know that his students have learned the lessons he had dedicated his life to teaching them. He takes pains to outline his credentials insisting that only someone with firsthand experience, like himself, has the authority to proclaim what is the best and right way to live. Peter almost reprimands the community, insisting that they trust his authority and toe the line. Well, this feels more like the power over type to me. But on the other hand, Peter does have a point. He was there. This was his lived experience. He did have an incredibly profound, paradigm-shifting experience of the awesome power of God, and this is the gift that he has to offer. He can't make them have the experience too, but he can tell the story and hope that after he is gone, they will continue to tell it to each other and to the next generation and the next. Peter is asking that the community hold on to the faith that they have built together. This feels more like power with. In exploring the concept of authority, we find the word author. Interestingly, it turns out that there has long been debate among scholars as to who actually authored Peter's letter. It is quite possible that this letter, which is so concerned with credentials and authority and warns against false teachers, was written by someone merely claiming to be Peter. Well, that kind of throws credibility out the window. This scripture could be a false teacher. If this was a fake, what would the real Peter, the one the people had actually known, have said? How were the readers of this letter supposed to know? How are we supposed to know? Who do we trust to be the real teacher here? Does this dilemma feel nauseatingly familiar? In our world of fake news and artificial intelligence, how do we know what is real? Who do we listen to? So how do you know what is real? How do you know what or whom to trust? Whose stories do you follow and believe and model your life after? Who are the authorities and the authors of your life? Now, I imagine that you were taught to honor your parents and your elders. Perhaps you learned always to be deferential to teachers, pastors, police officers, doctors. Maybe you were conditioned to believe that lawyers, scholars, CEOs, and scientists, white men in suits or adults in general, are the experts on everything. This was certainly in the environment that I grew up in. As a young kid, I was expected to follow the adults, the experts, that there was no need to question them or to develop my own opinion. I was also raised to keep quiet about shameful or socially improper things like anger, grief, infidelity, and divorce. I grew up with emotionally immature parents, which means I was taught to follow something called the rules of dysfunctional families, unknowingly. A friend of mine told me about this concept recently, and it just blew my mind. It turns out that there are actually something called rules of dysfunctional families. Psychologists and researchers have been studying this stuff for decades, and people working through 12-step programs like Adult Children of Alcoholics learn about this. But even though I had lived through it, I had never heard of it. Now, I have since learned that dysfunctional families are dysfunctional because they don't know how to deal with feelings in healthy ways. Caregivers are inconsistent and not tuned in to the kids. Behaviors are unpredictable and unreliable. A child may have to compensate by taking on adult responsibilities at a young age, and the child's needs are often ignored. Sometimes rules and expectations are unclear or are harsh and arbitrary. And at other times, there may be no guidelines and little supervision at all. Because things are so unpredictable, sometimes the kids feel like they are walking on eggshells, afraid of upsetting the fragile peace. The rules that keep these family dynamics in place are these. Rule number 1, don't talk. We don't talk about our family problems to each other or to outsiders. We act like everything is fine and make sure everyone else thinks we're a perfectly normal family. Hold it all together and put on a happy face. That's what was the rule in my household. This is extremely confusing for children who sense that something is wrong, but no one will acknowledge it. Children often conclude that they are the problem. Rule number 2, don't trust. Children depend on their parents or caregivers to keep them safe, but when you grow up in a dysfunctional family, you don't experience your parents and the world as safe and nurturing. Children feel anxious and have difficulty trusting. Children can't develop a sense of security because their caregivers are inconsistent and unreliable. The adults are, in one way or another, neglectful, emotionally absent, and don't fulfill their promises and responsibilities. Rule number 3, don't feel. Repressing painful or confusing emotions is a coping strategy used by everyone in a dysfunctional family. Children in dysfunctional families witness their parents numbing their feelings in a variety of ways: booze, drugs, affairs, the New York Times Games app. Feelings are rarely expressed or dealt with in a healthy way. Children quickly learn that trying to express their feelings will at best lead to being ignored, and at worst lead to emotional or physical violence, blame, and shame. So children also learn to suppress their feelings, to numb themselves and try to distract themselves from the pain. Parents who are dealing with their own problems don't have enough time, energy, or emotional maturity to pay attention to value and support their children's feelings. Children experience this neglect as, my feelings don't matter, so I don't matter. This was my experience, and the result was that I never learned to notice or express my own feelings very well. My coping mechanism, my survival technique, was to pay attention and try to take care of the feelings and needs of everyone else. My job was to be the peacemaker, the stress absorber, the calmer of rough seas. It has taken years to even know what I want and how to ask for and get what I need. Throughout my childhood, I didn't know for myself what was real or whom I could really trust. My parents, my extended family, and my community were my authorities. I absorbed what they taught, and I modeled myself after them. For many years, for good and for bad, my family dynamic was the author of my story. Over the past 40 plus years, I have been slowly healing. I've gotten better at talking about my stuff, trusting myself and others, and feeling all my feelings. I've finally been willing to hear that God has been calling me to wake up, to show up, calling me to emerge from my cocoon of self-protection, to reclaim my God-given authority, and to step into my whole, full self. Now, we all have this capacity to do this, but it means that we must believe in our inherent worthiness and to trust our own authority. For those of us born into dysfunctional families, it is important to talk about what we see and feel, to talk about those old, shameful, and suppressed experiences. We must learn to confide in ourselves and in others and no longer keep quiet about pain and injustice. We can understand that talking, sharing our thoughts, beliefs, and opinions is not selfish or undignified. It is self-care. It is self-preservation. For many of us, being able to express our true self is crucial to our very survival. Stepping into my authority means that I will practice listening to my gut, my own life-affirming instincts. I will follow my heart, guided by the God that dwells within me. I will continue to seek out the wisdom of the communities, the ancestors, and cultures of this earth, and I will listen for the truths within all others that I meet. I think this is what the author of Peter's letter was encouraging his community to do: to have faith in their God, to follow their instincts about what is good and true, to work together in community, to practice aligning their actions with their calling. May we, like Peter, each tell our truth, share our overwhelming experiences of awe and amazement at the power of God and creation and community with all who care to listen. May we listen to other people's stories with curiosity, healthy skepticism, and a willingness to learn, but never at the expense of our own dignity. May we question what or whom we consider to be an authority and what we are told is true or right. May we forever seek the wisdom we carry within us and be open to what new realities are possible when we trust ourselves and our God. And may we trust that change, systemic, social, cultural change, begins with each of us, each individual soul loving ourself and our neighbor. So, my friends, my wish for you is that you can listen to your own heart, your own source. You are a child of God, of the universe, of sacred creation. You are the authority on what is true and good and right for you. So talk, trust, feel. You are your own author. Tell your story so we can listen. May it be so, and blessed be. And we will close with a song that will be played for us, and if you know it, feel free to sing along. Thank you.
Be like a bird who, halting in her flight, on a limb to slide, feels it give way beneath her, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings. Be like a bird who, halting in her flight, on a limb to slide, feels it give way beneath her, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings. Be like a bird, halting in her flight, on a limb to slide, feels it give way beneath her, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, knowing she has wings. Be like a bird, halting in her flight, on a limb to slide, feels it give way beneath her, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, knowing she has wings. Yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings. Yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. I want to send you out with a couple of words. Go out into the world knowing that there will always be a new beginning and wisdom in a moonbeam. Be like a bird and use your wings to lift us all. Amen.